This is VSiN PrimeTime. Live from the Circus Sportsbook in downtown Las Vegas on VSiN, the sports betting network.
All right, hour number 2, VSiN PrimeTime. Will Hill, Matt Youmans, and again, Jonathan Von Tobel has moved off this show to be Stormy's co-host early in the day. So you're going to get a lot of Will Hill on this show this summer, along with Tim Murray and Scott Seidenberg. Quick update here from the association. How about Cleveland Cavaliers 35, Miami Heat 8? All right, let's go out to the Progressive guest line right now. And we're joined by Chuck Esposito, Red Rock Sportsbook Director. And Chuck, I'm assuming you needed the Miami Heat to cover tonight, and you're probably not too happy about the start of the game in Miami.
I'm not, Matt. I think the score was like 8-3, and I was thinking, man, can we just keep this right where it is? And next time I looked up, it was, I think, 35-8. So not good. We're definitely Heat fans tonight. They helped us out in the last game, though, where we were Cav fans, and they didn't play well. But we are Heat fans tonight.
Now 38-12. Cavs over the Heat. The live number is Cleveland minus 25.5 if you think you want to take an inflated price for the Heat. Chuck, how about tonight's game? This is our primetime game of the night. It's Houston, Golden State. Are you sitting at Warriors minus 4?
We're 3.5, Matt, right now. I mean, the game opened up 4. It's kind of ping-pong back and forth a little bit, but we sit at 3.5 right now. I think interesting, though, is the way that these teams have played kind of lower-scoring games in the NBA. We opened the total up lower at 201.5, and it has shot up to 203.5. Looks like it might even go higher. So although defense has kind of been, primed for these two teams, we've seen some over-money show pretty early on for the Rocket-Warrior game tonight. All
right, the tip-off of that game is still about 2 hours away in San Francisco. Warriors 3.5, 4-point favorites over the Rockets. Chuck Esposito, Red Rock Sportsbook. You're one of the few guys. Johnny Avello of DraftKings is another. He was on the show with us earlier. He said DraftKings came out a winner on the NFL draft. Chuck, I think you're going to say the same, right?
Ding, ding, ding. I am going to say the same. It doesn't happen often, though, guys. I think over the last 5 or 6 years, this is the first time that we've actually posted a win. I know we've talked about it. It's tough. We're in an information era. There's so much out there. But putting up indexes on all the teams, putting up only a few player props and putting them up a little bit later. We put up the number of trades, Mr. Irrelevant. Overall, it was a winning day for our side of the counter on draft day.
Chuck, do you think that makes books more enthusiastic about booking this going forward? And what was the key to winning? Is it just having a lot of markets? Is it waiting a while to post it? What's sort of your perspective from behind the counter on booking this stuff?
I'm not sure, Will. I mean, for us, we're always going to put it up. We know there's a high demand for it. Leading up to the draft, so many shows were dedicated to the draft, and people were asking about it. I think just our thought process a little bit. In the past, we had put up a lot more player props, and we're in such an information era. That's what we got beat on. This year, we put up a fewer player props. They were put up later. We had indexes up, though, I think, for 26 teams, and focused on that a little bit more. I know Matt and I talked about this when the Carr injury came up. There was a lot of interest in betting quarterback first to the Saints. There was so much kind of buzz out there with running back first to the Raiders. We're still trying to stay on top of it and move really quick, but I think the kind of change in direction of looking more at indexes and not as many player props kind of helped us this year, and my guess is that Johnny would say the same thing.
And once the draft ends, now all of a sudden Rookie of the Year markets for offensive rookie, defensive rookie, player props on these guys. What's your approach to booking these rookies and all the different ways people want to bet this stuff?
Well, we did put up the offensive and defensive Rookie of the Years, but I think we put up some player props here, though, because that's the interest. We put up, Cam Ward, his passing yards, regular season passing yards, his touchdowns, Genty's regular season rushing yards, his touchdowns, Travis Hunter, his receiving yards, offensive receiving yards, and his offensive touchdowns. McMillan's regular season yards, Matthew Golden's, Colston Loveland's yards and touchdowns. So anything that we could kind of capitalize that we thought would draw some wagering attention, we put up after the draft. But our guests and the bettors told us really quickly, hey, we're going over on Cam Ward, we're going over on Ashton Genty, and we're going over on Travis Hunter. We used comparables like Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams last year for Cam Ward. We looked at some of the comparables for running backs, but they went over considerably on these three guys on the props that we put up the day after the first round.
Any team whose draft you really like, or any team whose draft bettors really like?
I think for me, I like the Giants draft. I like the Patriots, the Panthers, the Chiefs, the Raiders, and the Rams a little bit. And we didn't move, though, any of those teams. We did drop the Bears a little bit, and I think it was a product of I wasn't crazy about the other three teams in the NFC North, Detroit, Green Bay, or Minnesota. And it seems with Ben Johnson there giving him more toys in Burden and Loveland, I think you're going to see them be a team that people bet a little bit, especially scoring-wise. They were the only team we dropped just a little bit. I know Matt's probably thinking that's a homer move from me being from Chicago, but it clearly wasn't. We saw some action on them after that first and second round. So they were really the only team we dropped a little bit. But again, I did like the Patriots, Panthers, Chiefs, Raiders, Rams, and Giants drafts this year.
Keep in mind, Will, the Chuck's also got the Cubs at 2-1 to win the World Series right now. Right?
Not quite, but maybe 5-2, but not quite 2-1 yet.
What was your adjustment on the Bears? I did like their draft, even though I thought they screwed up by not getting a running back, a top-tier running back out of this draft. They could have had a player like Cam Scatabo. Instead, they traded back twice, and I think Ben Johnson was a little upset at not getting that position addressed. But I agree with you. I wasn't crazy about the Vikings and the Lions especially. Packers draft okay. But what was your adjustment on the Bears?
Yeah, it was just a slight adjustment down, Matt. And you're right about the running back. But I think, and we're not in the draft room, and just listening to what they said, I think they were interested in both Henderson and Judkins from Cleveland or from Ohio State. And I think they were interested in a lot of those guys. It just didn't work out. There was so much chatter about them trying to trade up in front of the Raiders to take Genty. But after what happened with how much Jacksonville gave up to get up into that second spot for Hunter, it just wasn't obtainable anymore. So I wanted them to take a running back as well. I thought that would help, but I do like the other pieces there. They're a little bit tied into Nick Chubb right now. A lot of rumblings about that. I still like Swift and I like Roschon Johnson. They probably had another veteran piece this year though. But I love the weapons, the two tight end set now with Kmet and of course Loveland, and the receiving core they have with Adunze, TJ Moore, and then picking up or drafting Burden as well. I think they've got a lot of toys now for Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson.
Oh yeah, the Bears receiving core looks lethal, and very impressive what they've done to surround Caleb Williams with weapons. They did get a running back from Rutgers in the 7th round, but there was a lot of talk that the Bears wanted to move up for Ashton Genty. I don't know if that was a smoke screen or what was going on, but the Bears never made that move for a running back, instead going with a tight end at number 10, and it was not Tyler Warren. All right, so the big story coming out of the draft, we've tried to avoid this as much as possible because Mel Kiper Jr.'s head almost exploded over the weekend when Shedeur Sanders dropped all the way to the 5th round. Really, Chuck, the only media guy I heard refer to Shedeur Sanders maybe sliding out of the first round, or the first guy I heard mention it, was Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated last week. He said he couldn't find any personnel people who thought Sanders was going to be a first-round pick. He slides all the way out of the 1st to the 5th. And what was your take on what happened with the quarterbacks in this draft? Obviously, Cam Ward going 1. I'm with you. I really liked the Giants draft. Jackson Dart was the Giants pick at number 25 after a trade up. And then you had a bunch of quarterbacks drafted after the first round. What was your analysis of what happened there with Shedeur Sanders and the other QBs?
Well, I was surprised that he dropped out of the first round, Matt. I didn't think he would go in the first 10. I think I said it on talking to you leading up to the draft and some other shows that I thought Cleveland and the Giants could be in play for him, but trading back up late, that I thought he might go somewhere in the mid to late 20s. He's got, he played well last year in college. He's not a running quarterback, doesn't have the big arm, but he put some good stats on the board. We've seen some other quarterbacks that have dropped that have done really, really well. Only time will tell. I think any of these guys, including think Cam Ward would have gone after at least the top 4 or 5 that went last year. This wasn't a deep quarterback class, but I think because it's such a quarterback-driven league, we just all thought that maybe you'd have 3 or 4 guys go in the first round, which clearly wasn't the case.
All right, Will Hill and I will analyze the Cleveland Browns situation and talk about more NFL draft here coming up later in the show. Chuck, I wanted to spend the last 2 minutes with you talking hockey. You're smart when it comes to the pucks, and tonight you got the Avalanche and the Dallas Stars. That series tied at 2. Colorado a -135 road favorite, total of 6. And also, can you talk about the Tuesday night game, another series tied at 2, and that's Minnesota and Vegas with the Golden Knights big favorites -210.
Avalanche Stars has been a great series. I think, getting Landeskog back for the Lanch has helped. They're a scary team, I think, when they're healthy and they're playing really well, which they are right now. They're on the road in this game tonight against the Stars, but they're a really good team. And in the Knights case, guys, I've said it so often. I mean, I'm a huge Knight fan, have season tickets, but from the business side of it, I mean, we're normally rooting against them. I mean, getting them to go down 3-1 would have been huge. At least we've done well over the first 4 games so far, but we're rooting against them. They're a big favorite tomorrow night, against them on the puck line and against the over in that game. So we're clearly rooting for the Wild to keep it to a more low-scoring and close game. But that series is really interesting. I thought the Knights would walk through the Wild. I thought they were clearly the better team. Hill hasn't been great, and the Wild have played really good so far. So we're in for a huge series, I think, the rest of the way in the last 3.
Yeah, it's going to be a big Game 5 in Vegas on Tuesday night. I watched a great game late last night. Edmonton with a comeback win 4-3 over the L.A. Kings in overtime. Chuck, always appreciate the time, and we will talk with you again soon. Congratulations on winning on the NFL draft.
Thanks, Matt. I think I'd give us an A. I'm not sure what Kuiper would give us, but at least we got a good score this year on the draft. But appreciate jumping on with you guys, and look forward to chatting soon. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Thanks,
Will Hill and I will talk about Mel Kiper and more on the NFL draft when we come back here in a couple minutes.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, Cavs all over the Heat, 49-19 in Miami. If you want to grab the Miami Heat plus 30.5, that's what you can get. Will Hill, laid 8 with the Cavs. Will, you got to be feeling pretty good about this game right now.
Yeah, any interest for you, Matt, in Miami Heat money line, Miami series price? Man, this is.
You can grab the Heat on the money line right now at 40-1.
Wow.
Or you could grab the 30.5 points. If I had the choice, I think I'd take the 30.5 points. And 49-20 is the current score. Miami Heat showing no heart, down 3-0 in the series. Let's quick update what's happening in baseball as well. Our Yankees were down 4-0 to the Orioles last time we checked, and it's still 4-0 Baltimore in the bottom of the 5th. Reds up 3-1 over the Cardinals, and Twins all over the Guardians 9-1. All right, so just to recap what we were talking about with the NFL draft. Will, I don't know how it turned out for you. Turned out okay for me. Very small winner. I had the Packers to pick a wide receiver in the first round at 7-1 odds. Jackson Dart to be the second quarterback off the board at 2-1. A few other prop winners. Had Cam Scatterbo. He was picked by the Giants on Saturday morning when I was on the show with Tim Murray. And I put up a column at vsin.com talking about evaluating some of the biggest winners I felt from the NFL draft. The New York Giants, one of those. Pittsburgh Steelers, I also thought had a winning draft. Eagles, Ravens. Everybody hypes the Ravens after the draft each year. I like the Seahawks. Go on and on, but you can check it out at vsin.com. Will, who did you esteem to be winners from the draft after you looked at the 7 rounds over 3 days?
Yeah, I mean, the Eagles and Ravens are teams like this where just as soon as they turn the card in, as soon as you see the pick, you say, oh, that makes sense. That guy's going to be a good player. The Spurs used to be like this in basketball, where you just know right away that's going to be a good pick. Knicks were the opposite of that way, where they draft someone like Ronaldo bulk, but you say, man, it's not going to work. These teams know what they're doing. That's a great safety duo for Baltimore. I think Campbell's going to fit in right away with Philly. Philly had some good picks. I agree with your Giants take. Now, Brian Dable and Joe Shane might not be around in a couple of years, a year from now to enjoy that, but you got another pass rusher, maybe get a quarterback. Scatabo, I think, is going to be a really good pro. I think that's a deep running back class where a lot of these running backs can contribute. So, and they probably need like a 500 or so season to keep their jobs. I don't know if they're capable of that, but I think they really improved their roster. That's a lot of pass rushers, a lot of good defensive linemen. And I'll throw in a team. Well, I don't know if they're good enough at quarterback to actually win a division or be a contender, but Denver has a loaded roster. I like the Barron pick. Harvey, I think, is a sleeper for Rookie of the Year. He's a big-time back. And remember, he played for Malzahn in college. Bo Nix played for Malzahn in college, so there's a little connection there. If you just look at 2 through 53, forget the quarterback, the 53-man roster for Denver, they're loaded on defense. They've got, I think Harvey's going to be, a go-to back. They were over the moon with, getting him. And that's a guy that likes to run the ball in Peyton. So I think Denver is really underrated. Again, that's a tough division. It's a tough conference. Is Bo Nix able to beat Mahomes and Allen, Lamar, and all these superhero quarterbacks? I'm not sure. But, boy, it's a really good team. I think Hampton's going to be a good pick for the Chargers. Harbaugh's a guy that likes to run the ball. So I liked some of the guys Pittsburgh got, but what is their plan? Like, where are they getting a quarterback? And I'm sure we'll talk about Rodgers here at some point. Like, what is their plan here? Because I understand just because you need a quarterback, you reach for one and that doesn't work out. But it just seems like they're stuck in this purgatory of, okay, they're going to be competitive. They're going to win their 8, 9, 10 games, 9+. But if you don't have a quarterback, you can't really do much. So I like some of the guys Pittsburgh got. I don't know what their direction is, what their plan is.
Yeah, I like the Steelers draft quite a bit. I thought they did a great job with their defensive picks. And then Will Howard is a backup quarterback. You take in the 6th round. Howard out of Ohio State, who John Gruden loved him in those quarterback camp meetings. And I like Will Howard. I thought that was a solid pick. But, again, I think it's pretty obvious when Pittsburgh passed on quarterback after quarterback that it's going to be Aaron Rodgers headed to the Steelers. Now, Diana Rossini had a report on this over the weekend that the Steelers and Rodgers continue to talk, and it looks like that's going to happen. No timetable has been set by either side, but it sure looks like. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is running out of places to go, Will, and I think the Steelers do have a contender, and they're led by, I think, a coach that he would have no problems playing for. And he's got DK Metcalf there, too. Don't forget about that. The Steelers traded for DK Metcalf during the offseason. I like the personnel in this Pittsburgh offense, but especially on the defense. And if Rodgers has something left, I like what the Steelers are doing here. And I would assume that to become the answer pretty soon. But anyway, Will Howard I thought was a solid backup pick by the Steelers. I believe that was the 6th round that Howard went to Pittsburgh. Let's talk about Shedeur Sanders. So he slips all the way to the 5th round. I thought Pittsburgh was going to be the destination for Sanders, but it's obvious the Steelers did not want him because they passed on him multiple times. Well, the more you heard, the more reports that came out about Shedeur Sanders and the interviews he had with teams and how unprofessional he was, unprepared he was. I can understand now why so many teams passed on him. He basically conducted himself like a clown throughout the entire pre-draft process, and he was trying to dictate to the teams where he was going to go, not who was going to draft him. And I think when you see how unprofessional he was, and considering all the baggage and the circus element that comes with Deion Sanders and Shedeur Sanders, I can see why so many teams passed on him. How about you? You know, the one thing that surprised me a little bit, that very few media members picked up on this before the draft. I mentioned Albert Breer of Sports Illustrated. Will, the day before the draft, you had reporters in New York saying the Giants were still considering Shedeur Sanders at number 3, which is obviously a lie.
Yeah, and look, we have people at this network that have had dealings with Shedeur, and it was similar to the reports you're hearing that it's as bad as it could be. Just, he's on FaceTime, he's rude, he's just does what he wants. It's you don't really hear any pushback to it. You don't hear any good stories. And the problem is, too, and why I think the perception was so skewed. A lot of these people are afraid of Deion, the Colorado backing, the Dion, contingent. People like Dan Orlovsky, who's about as positive as anyone in terms of the coverage, got called a hater by Dion. Dan Orlovsky's the farthest thing from it. Dion is Orlovsky's soft on these players. So, yeah, I think people were afraid to speak the truth on Shedeur, and that skewed the perception of it. Now he actually lands in a place where, if he's as good as he thinks, or he's good as some of the people that are high on him thinks, he can have a chance to play, if not right away, early in the season, because there's not a lot there at the quarterback position in Cleveland. So that's a positive. But yeah, that was a stunning fall there for Sanders.
All right, let's hear from Mel Kiper Jr., who went off. And like I said, I thought his head was going to explode as Sanders continued to drop round after round. Don't forget, his draft prop position opened at 3.5 in the first round. 3.5, and he went in the 5th round.
The NFL has been clueless for 50 years when it comes to evaluating quarterback. Clueless. All that, no idea what they're doing in terms of evaluating quarterback. That's proof. There's proof of that.
How many
they say we know exactly what we're talking about with quarterback? They don't.
All right, so Mel Kiper doesn't know exactly what he's talking about with the quarterbacks. He said he would retire a long time ago if Jimmy Clausen was not a successful pro. He hyped up Jamarcus Russell. He had Patrick Mahomes, the 5th-rated quarterback in his class, behind Deshaun Kaiser and Luke Falk. All right, so Kiper, don't act like you know everything about the quarterbacks. And when I heard about how unprofessional Sanders was, I could fully understand why so many teams passed on him. I would not deal with a guy who's acting like that. I don't think NFL teams want to deal with it either. Let's take a look at what the DraftKings odds board shows right now. And Will, you and I are on the same page here. The best bet has disappeared. When this was put up over the weekend, Joe Flacco was at 12-1 odds. Browns quarterback to take the first snap in week 1. Kenny Pickett, the favorite at plus 120. Shedeur Sanders plus 225. Joe Flacco at 3-1. Dylan Gabriel, 3rd-round pick out of Oregon, plus 650. And Deshaun Watson, who's injured, at 18-1. Talk about an eclectic group right there. Flacco at 12-1 would have been my bet, but the 12-1 is gone. A lot of people were thinking the same way, Will.
Yeah, I actually got it at 7-1. Now it's down to 3-1. I was late to the switch. I was doing something. I saw the number. I said, I think I like that. Looked maybe 45 minutes, an hour later, it's down to 7-1. I said, you know what? No more. I got to grab it. Can we get the Browns on Hard Knocks? Could the Browns would be a perfect Hard Knocks candidate great. With all of these characters, the Shedeur, sideshow here. And I do think at the end of the day, Flacco, he's not going to make you look terrible. He's going to know the playbook. He's still got the big arm. I think him even at 3-1. If you made me bet any of this stuff, I'd still bet Flacco at 3-1. Yeah,
I can understand why Kenny Pickett's the favorite. Pittsburgh cast off at plus 120. I'm not sure Pickett's going to be able to hold on to that job. I would not bet Sanders, even though some will say he's the most talented guy of the group. I think Flacco was the bet. But again, it was 12-1. Will got 7-1. Now it's Flacco at 3-1 as the third choice to take the first snap for the Browns. That's up at DraftKings. Will, did you see the reaction of Kevin Stefanski and Browns GM Andrew Berry when the pick was announced? They didn't look too happy. You think that was a Browns owner Jimmy Haslam mandate to draft Sanders?
Either that or they hid their enthusiasm very, very well. They hid their excitement well. Good poker players. Jeez.
All right, Matthew Friedman had a mock draft that was in the top 5 nationally. He's going to join us next here on VSiN PrimeTime.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, Will Hill's money is on the Cavs tonight, and that's in the right spot. Will, I'm not worried about jinxing it because I think you're fine with Cleveland. How about the score update? 63-23, Cleveland over Miami 4 minutes to go before the half, and you have to wonder what Eric Spoelstra is going to do at halftime. This is a humiliation for the Heat franchise right now. Down 40. A DraftKings live line is 43.5. 66-23 now. Cavs over the Heat. And this is a laugher. Will Hill's money is on the Cavs tonight. If you want to know where the money is really going, unlike other sources, our betting splits come straight from Circa and DraftKings Sportsbook, giving you insight into where the sharp action is landing. Circa is known for taking big bets from professional bettors. DraftKings provides a broader market perspective. That means you're getting the real action, not just public money, but the kind of wagers that move lines. See the percentage of bets versus percentage of handle on every game across every major sport. You can make smarter, more informed bets. Get VSiN's summer special right now. Only $59. That's all the way until August 1st. Go to vsin.com/subscribe. All right, let's go out to the Progressive Guest Line. We're going to talk NFL draft, and we're going to talk to an expert mock drafter. Matthew Friedman joins us now from his temporary home in New Hampshire before he moves across the country. And Friedman, I have to say congratulations. I've been in the top 5 or top 3 in this mock draft exercise here in the past, and you did it this year. I'll give you the numbers here in a minute, the exact numbers. But again, what made your mock draft so successful? And this is not the first time you've had a very sharp mock draft.
Well, thanks. And by the way, I just want to say it's always fun to talk with the VSiN crew. So thanks for having me. I have no idea what made my mock draft so successful. I mean, I know that's a terrible answer, but I feel like I just really try to focus on not even so much is this player going to go to this team, but am I getting this player in the general draft range where I think he's going to go? And am I doing a good job of matching up positions with team needs? You know, so for instance, like Walter Nolan went number 16 to the Cardinals. That wasn't a widely mocked pick. I got that one, and part of it was I think that's the general draft range for Walter Nolan. The Cardinals need defensive line help. This kind of fits the general range, and I have to put him somewhere, so that's where I'm putting him. And so I think what a lot of mock drafters do is they really try to focus on the player and team fit. And I know I can't do that. Like, I know I'm not going to be perfect. I think if I try to be perfect, I'm going to be highly imperfect. I think I kind of just try to be good enough. And, you know, that has generally led to pretty decent results year over year.
You can follow Matthew Friedman at Matt F. the Oracle on Twitter at Fantasy Life. And here's the final tally from MDDB. That's at _ mock drafts. Each year they grade all the mock drafts from across the country. And I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, I finished third. Matthew Friedman finished third this year. There were 1,527 total mock drafts. Nick Jacobs, number 1. Freddie Branson, number 2. Matthew Friedman, number 3. I finished, looks like, number 73 out of 1,527. I want to ask you a couple of quick things here, Friedman, about your mock draft again. Did you have Ashton Jeanty going to the Raiders at number 6? Where did you have Shedeur Sanders going, and how many mock drafts did you do? I did one version.
So I have been doing mock drafts almost every week since I think around December. So this was my 22nd version. So I feel like that's also part of it. Like I feel like I've just been thinking about this draft for so much and doing so many iterations that eventually I feel like you start to see the board pretty well, and you think of, okay, if this guy goes here, then that means this other guy is going to fall here. And you just kind of start to see the strings. You just kind of start to see how players are connected. To answer the questions about Jeanty, no. I mean, that was so infuriating because for the longest time, I, like everyone else, had Jeanty going to the Raiders. And then last minute, I had him going to the Jags, kind of following what we saw in the market, following a lot of national reports. And, you know, it ended up being right that the Jags were going for a offensive playmaker. I just didn't get the right one. And then in my final mock, I actually had Shedeur Sanders falling out of the first round. And I can't say like I'm, you know, like a prophet or anything like that. It was just, you could just feel it. You could just sort of see the momentum. You know, like a couple of weeks before, thoughts were he might go as high as number 2, and then maybe number 9, and then maybe 21. And, you know, as we were approaching the first day of the draft, I mean, hours away, it just felt like increasingly possible. I don't know if there's a team that actually likes him as a first rounder. So in the final version, I did not have Shedeur in round 1.
Did you have any inkling that this Browns-Jags trade was possible? Did this help or hurt your draft? What does this draft look like if that trade doesn't happen? And what did you make of the trade overall?
Now, there were rumors, but I honestly try not to pay all that much attention to rumors because generally I feel like if there's real backing behind the rumors, you start to see that in the market, and you start to see that materialize in a lot of other mock drafts. And we really just did not see that. So, you kind of got whispers that, oh, there's a team that might be interested. The Jags might be interested in trading up to number 2. I never thought in a million years that the Browns would entertain that. Like, you hear the GM for the Browns literally compare a guy to Shohei Ohtani, and you think, oh, there's no way they're trading this pick, but they did. So that definitely hurt in the mock, but I would say it didn't really hurt me any more than it hurt anyone else, because literally no one projected that trade. So, it kind of hurts in that, like, my mock wasn't as accurate as it would have been otherwise, but it hurt me the same as it hurt everyone else. So in the end, it really didn't matter.
What's the key as we get ready for next year when the time comes to reading between what's a smokescreen and what's real? Is it following the beat writers? Is it following the market? What are some tips for really nailing this stuff down?
That's a great question. So years ago, I would say before the legalization of sports betting in the United States, mock drafts, I think, tended to be more independently minded. And now I believe that a lot of the mock drafts tend to follow the market. I'd say like 5 or 6 years ago, when sports betting was still a newer thing in the United States, at least widespread across the country, you would have a lot of mock drafts kind of leading the market. Now I think it's the opposite way, where you might have 1 or 2 big name mock drafters like Daniel Jeremiah or Lance Zierlein or Mel Kiper. You might have one of them do something in a mock draft, and then the market might respond. But generally, kind of outside of that, the market moves before the mock drafts. And I think, years ago, you used to have a lot of variety in mock drafts, and now there's just a lot of homogeneity. There's just a lot of groupthink that you see in mock drafts. And so I would say, in terms of kind of thinking about how to leverage that in the market and how to kind of distinguish what is a smokescreen and what isn't, I think you want to pay attention to as little, I know this might sound weird, but as little information as possible. And I think what we see in the market is probably closer to reality than what we see in a lot of mock drafts. And then if you're paying attention to beat reporters, I think you really want to maybe go back and analyze who are the beat reporters who are actually worth paying attention to. And, there are a few mock drafters who might be really plugged in to a few particular teams. And so those would be the people that I would pay attention to, and then what you see in the market, what you see in other mock drafts. But, if someone and I don't want to cast dispersions on Adam Schefter or something like that, but he's, not a draft Nick. He's not a draft analyst. He's a national NFL reporter and insider. If he tweets something out, it might have merit, but you really don't know. I would say if a big name like that tweets something out, that is definitely going to move the market. It will probably over-move the market, but you don't really know if that is going to be something that actually comes to bear. Whereas if you see Daniel Jeremiah say something on a podcast, that feels like it probably ends up having a little more credence, because he's just much more tuned into the draft. Yeah. And
that definitely moves it. Hey, Matthew, we're about ready to run out of time here. Follow him at Fantasy Life. And again, he finished number 3 out of 1,527 mock drafts. I was going to ask you quickly here in the final 20 seconds. Did you use your mock draft success to translate to betting wins? Did you bet the draft and win?
I did bet the draft, and sadly, for the second year, I did not have a profitable year. So I don't know. I can mock greatly, but evidently, I'm not a very good bettor.
Follow him for fantasy football too, Matthew Friedman. Appreciate the time.
This is VSiN PrimeTime on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
All right, Will Hill, Matt Youmans back here on VSiN PrimeTime. A look at Will Hill's smile. He's got the Cavs -8, and he's up 72-33 at halftime. On Twitter, Jehovah392 says, at what point do you buy in on Miami? or do you just stay away? So right now, with the 72-33 game, Will, if you didn't have a bet pregame, you got to think the Cavs know this series is over. You got to rest the starters a little bit here in the second half. This is a question worth asking. Do the Heat come out and play with any heart, any pride here in the second half? Would you be tempted at all to take plus 38.5 with Miami?
I guess I would take it before I would lay it, but if they haven't shown any heart and intensity now, down 3-0, down basically, 40 at the half, why all of a sudden now are they going to, win one for the Gipper? I guess it'd be Heat or nothing. Maybe you look at some Cavs player props if those are up at some of those starters. You look at the player props, under points, under assists, with the thought that sooner or later they're going to come out of this game, probably sooner rather than later. But you know what? You bet garbage time, you get garbage results. This is going to be decorated garbage time here this last 24 minutes of the game. So is this something where if you make a bet and you lose, is this something you're going to feel okay losing? That's always a question I ask myself, and I really wouldn't.
I would actually consider taking a 38.5 here. I think that the Cavs got to just let up. This game's over. You got to think Eric Spoelstra's I can't use the word I want to use on TV or radio, but I think Eric Spoelstra is going to be chewing some guys out. Let's put it that way at halftime, because this is humiliating for a Heat franchise right now. You're down 39 points at halftime. I think we're going to find out if some of these guys want to play here in the second half. I would take the 38.5 for pass. I'm actually looking at this live betting thing. I'm trying to decide if I want to take the 38.5 right now. Got a couple minutes to think about it. Will Hill, we've talked with Chuck Esposito, Red Rock Sportsbook Director, and Matthew Friedman of Fantasy Life about the NFL Draft here this hour. Chuck put up some props for rookies for the NFL season in 2025. Friedman had one of the most accurate mock drafts, and he's big into fantasy football. So what we were talking about with Friedman, we wanted to get to the NFL Draft of 2026 and the number one pick odds. And I wanted to ask Friedman if, when he puts together his first mock draft, if he's going to have Arch Manning as the number one overall pick. He's the favorite right now, Will. Arch Manning at DraftKings, 2-1, the favorite to be the number one overall pick. He's going to enter his first full season as the starting quarterback at Texas. Drew Allard, Penn State quarterback, second choice plus 225. Garrett Nussmeier of LSU, Cade Klubnik at Clemson, TJ Parker. I tell you what, Lenore Sellers at South Carolina is a guy who's going to rise up the odds board. Lenore Sellers right now at 30-1. He's a hell of an athlete, a freak athlete, and he's a better passer, I would say, a little bit more polished than Jalen Milroe. I wouldn't write off Lenore Sellers at 30-1, the South Carolina QB. I was looking through these odds today, Will. I can't make really an argument for any of these guys that we're looking at on the screen, any of the, 10 guys on the screen, other than Arch Manning and Lenore Sellers right now. And, Will, there have been some talk that if the Mannings don't like who has the number one pick in next year's draft, the Arch might stay at Texas for 2 years. What are you thinking here?
Yeah, it wouldn't be the first time a Manning has pulled a power play like that. Obviously, Eli with the Chargers and the Giants, so that's something to keep in mind. I'm thinking with what you're thinking, though. 2-1 on Arch doesn't seem bad. Sellers, he's got a ton of talent. I love that South Carolina team. I think if they had ever made their way into the college football playoffs, they could have really made some noise with their defense, with their skill. I loved betting that team and watching that team at the end of the year. They just lost a couple tough games and got a bad break, got left out of the tournament. You know what? If you gave me, $100 to spend on this market and divide it however I want, probably some combination of maybe 50 on Archie, 50 on Sellers. Boy, Allard, number one pick in the draft, wouldn't be my team, wouldn't be my selection. Nussmeier, same thing. Klubnik. Don't know much about Parker. That's one I'll have to look into. Is we're getting that time of the year, especially once the NBA playoffs start. The college football prep will really ramp up for me, so I'm excited for that. And but you get a lot of prep now with these college sports with all the transfer portal. So I'm with you, Arch, Sellers. Probably divide a unit between those two guys, but nothing I'm cutting in line to bet here.
No, there's nothing I would recommend right now either, and I wouldn't recommend Arch at 2-1. We don't really know how good Arch Manning is right now. I think I'm a believer, but I'm not quite there yet. We want to see more of him. It's interesting, Will, that Steve Sarkisian, the Texas coach, was so hesitant to put Arch Manning in and put packages in for him for Texas in that offense this season that you had to wonder, does Sark know something we don't know? Was Arch not ready to play? Because I thought Arch should have been on the field a little bit more. I'm not the biggest Quinn Ewers fan in the world, and guess what? The NFL scouts aren't either. How about that, Will? Quinn Ewers, the Texas quarterback in the college football playoff, he dropped to the 7th round to the Miami Dolphins. He turned down reportedly $5 million or more in NIL offers. I don't know if it was from Notre Dame or Michigan State or who it was. There were some different programs rumored out there. But how about Quinn Ewers? Turned down in that money, at least $5 million to stay in college, to be a starter one more season, and he slips all the way to the 7th round with the Dolphins.
Yeah, that's a bummer. You wonder with these kids, who's giving them advice, because that's obviously, one he would like back, and just think about that. You got one guy who's a 7th round pick, the other guy who's, the favorite, the short shot 2-1 to go be the first pick in the next draft. And the guy who went in the 7th round is playing over the guy that went first. So I agree. That was strange. I thought they were going to use Arch more. I don't know that he's this sure thing. The market indicates here is like a 2-1. Usually a guy's 2-1 to go first in the draft. You think, all right, this guy's a sure thing at the college level, at least. We haven't seen that much of him. And remember, this time last year, I think Shedeur Sanders was around even money. I know he was the short shot to be the first pick.
You're right.
And he was minus 200 in November, December to be the first pick. So these markets with with awards and with draft picks, it's there's a lot of guesswork there, which does provide some opportunity. I just don't know that this market in particular is one that I love. Right.
If you're going to bet this market, I say look for a long shot. That's why I say Lenora Sellers maybe a 30-1. I'm not saying he's going to be the number one pick, but you got to look for a long shot in this board. And you could have had better odds with Cam Ward. You could have had Travis Hunter, I think at one point around 22 or 30-1 last year, even though he went as the number 2 pick behind Cam Ward. Arch Manning, I think here, Will, is the favorite by default because of how good he could be, because of his last name. Texas is going to be, a top 5, top 10 team in college football. I think Arch is going to be really good from what I've seen. We just don't know it for sure. The thing is, when you're making an odds board like this, you can't really make Drew Allar the favorite, can you? Penn State quarter. You can't make Garrett Nussmeier the favorite.
No, you cannot. Allar is, those odds just do not seem right to me.
No.
I would love to bet a no on that one. There was a no price.
All right. Want to bet smarter, not louder? Check out the Sharp Plays at sharpplays.com, where real bettors go to get ahead. Sharp Plays, since 2011, has been locked in with real pros and what they are betting. Elite groups, sharp money, the kind that actually moves the market. With insider info and powerful AI tools, you're not guessing, you're getting ahead. Sign up for free betting reports, real-time alerts, and next-level intel via email or on X. And don't take anyone's word for it. Check the receipts. Full betting logs are live on the site. Why follow the crowd when you can lead it? Visit sharpplays.com. Respected, watched, and feared. The Sharp Plays. There you go. Check it out, sharpplays.com. All right, quick update on what's happening. We're about to get underway here in the second half in Miami between the Cavs and the Heat. We are underway now, 74-36. After it was a 39-point game at the half, and the live line was 38.5. Will, do you have your eyes on anything in baseball right now? The Yankees still trail 4-0 in the 7th inning at Baltimore.
No, got my eyes on all these games here, but nothing. It's kind of a weak Monday night slate. Detroit's up 2-0 on Houston. Yankees fell behind 4-0 early. They've kept Baltimore scoreless since then, but haven't been able to muster more than a run here to make it a 4-1 game. Minnesota beat Cleveland. So, no, Pat, here's the one thing that's jumping out to me. These fade Patrick Corbin people, that gravy train might have come to an end because he's actually pitching well. I think he's through 3 scoreless now. He's had some good starts this year. So, for whatever reason, Corbin has bounced back and been able to throw a decent ball, at least so far this year.
He certainly has. I do have a play later tonight. It's not a big play, but I played Dodgers on the run line. We'll talk about that game a little bit more coming up here. But Dustin May is the starter for the Dodgers tonight. They are minus 265. Run line minus 130 right now at Circus Sports. How about this? Dustin May at home this season, 2 starts, 11 innings pitched, 4 hits, 1 earned run, 13 strikeouts. He's got great numbers at home. He did have a bad start at Wrigley Field last Tuesday, but in his previous 3 starts, May 17 innings, 7 hits, 2 earned runs, and 14 strikeouts over those 17 innings. A lot to like about Dustin May tonight. The Dodgers had actually dropped 4 of 5 before the last 2 wins over the Pirates, and the one win they had when dropping 4 of 5 was 1-0. Dodgers did cover the run line the last 2 nights on Saturday and Sunday, and hopefully the Dodgers cover the run line tonight. We got more baseball betting coming up in the next hour. Steve Phillips, former Mets GM, joins the show next. Stay tuned to VSiN Primetime.